Welcome back to the Daily Wrap. Well, we're in a very special location here in Oita Stadium ahead of the quarter-final between England and Australia. And look who's back. Where have you been, Beth?
Just having a relaxing holiday in Ottawa, as you do.
Yeah, right. Well, we've missed you. There's so much to catch up on. Apologies not being able to come to you with a Daily Wrap yesterday. Wallabies did their training very, very late at night and then it started pouring with rain. But what a day. There were lots of interesting team naming selections yesterday. I guess we've got to start with Geordie Petaia at 13. He's out there behind us. Thoughts, Beth? That's a pretty big roll of the dice by Michael Cheika.
It seemed initially exactly right, a bit of a gamble, but I think the more that people were talking about it, it kind of seems like an obvious decision in a way. Jordan has played 13 a lot. It's actually his preferred position. And, I mean, go back to round 2 of Super Rugby this year when he played against the Highlanders and absolutely lit up the field. I think there's plenty of people excited to see him play at 13. Maybe one of the more debatable selections, or omissions rather, is that of Dane Haylett-Petty, and Michael Cheika put his faith in Kurtley Beale to start at fullback and has left Dane out of the squad. So, that's going to be a really critical, decision.
Just on Geordie Petaia, I mean, he's 19 years old. You forget that. He seems like he's been around for a long time. Wasn't that long ago he was doing his school exams. But those around him say he's incredibly unflappable. He's just got an old head on those broad shoulders of his. As you say, the Karevi-Petaia combination was earmarked from a long way out. But he actually had to deal with a lot of injury problems during the year, didn't he? So I guess it was thrown into doubt. But what you talk about there is basically the faith they've shown in him, haven't they? That's incredible faith, really, when you think about it. The safe option would have been to stick with a James O'Connor, who we just saw behind us, or even a Tuvita Kurandrani. But it's the gambler's instinct, isn't it, of Michael Cheika? Like, biggest game potentially of his career since the World Cup final. You lose this one, you go home, but they're throwing the kid in there.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, there's no reason to believe that he won't step up to this challenge. He's spent the better part of the last year out with injury and looked right at home when he played for the Wallabies off about 80 minutes of club rugby. So, there's no reason to think that he won't be able to step up. And even those, people from England and that sort of thing, Henry Slade was talking about him yesterday. And while he, said maybe Petaia's inexperience could be a bit, they could target it a little bit. He was very quick to say that's not really a factor anymore these days for guys like that. They're in these squads and they're ready for the occasion.
Last thing on Jordan Petaia, Matt Tamua, who was a close family friend of his, says, actually, we've seen that attacking brilliance, but what impresses those guys is how well he defends. He's very comfortable defending at this level and he's going to need it. You've got Manu Tuilagi out there in the midfield. Eddie Jones did pick Manu Tuilagi at 12, he switched him in. As you said, Henry Slade has moved to 13, but you can expect that Manu Tuilagi is going to run at Geordie Petaia all day. Okay, other areas for the Wallabies. Christian Leali'ifano at 10, not such a huge surprise, probably the one guy that they think is consistent there. But Will Genia starting at halfback, another change?
Yeah, it's I think the fourth halves combination in 5 weeks for the Wallabies, and maybe it's not such a huge shock to see Will Genia there. I mean, he and Nick White have kind of been interchanging a bit, but I think the key will be, we've only seen really this tournament, the bench halfback really star. So the key will be, Will jumping out of the gates and really, having an effective start, and then Nick White being able to keep that tempo up in the last half of the game as well. Yeah,
you mentioned the gate. There hasn't been one at this tournament. Remember when there used to be such a thing as you can't go outside the gate or around the gate?
Somewhere back in the bowels of the memory.
It's going to be a big area, I reckon, tomorrow. The breakdown's been a hell of a mess at this World Cup. And we asked Will Genia about that yesterday. Is that a zone that the Wallabies have to be really mindful of, given that they want to play high-tempo footy?
I think if they can make that messy for us, it'll probably disrupt our flow, disrupt our pace and the tempo that we want to bring. So that's an area that as a team, a lot of the times you think it's just a forward pack, but I think as a team we've got to make sure we focus on is allowing us to play at tempo, so making sure we're clean in that breakdown and accurate at that breakdown area.
We also heard from Matt Tamua. We've got to get into this, Beth. Explain what Matt Tamua got up to yesterday.
It's been a funny week, hasn't it? Well, Matt Tamua used to play for the Leicester Tigers, and I think 4 or 5 of his former teammates are lining up for England this week or in the squad. And he was asked for his insights on them on Thursday, and he had some very interesting light to shed on some of those England players.
Yeah, let's have a listen to that now.
Yeah, obviously very fortunate to play with a lot of them there. Know all of their weaknesses. Luckily, I've been telling everyone. Can list them now for you if you want. Manu's a terrible snooker player. George Ford never pays for a beer. Ben Youngs isn't even the best rugby player in his family, so let alone the country. The chicken, Johnny May, very weird, and Dan Cole doesn't have a personality, so just been telling everyone about that.
So Ben Youngs had the chance to reply today, and he didn't miss. He's done well, Ben Youngs. Let's have a listen to what his retort was to Matt Tamur.
He's very happy with himself because he sent me the video clip.
Any response?
He's not far wrong with some of it. 40's never brought him a pint because he's normally smoke bombed by that point or too drunk that he's actually left the building. And I thought it was quite ironic. He knows what it's like to play second fiddle, especially being married to Elise Perry. So I feel for him. He knows my pain.
Okay, so Beth, look, we hope this isn't the last weekend for the Wallabies. We hope there's a couple more, but you can't deny this is win or lose. You got to, it's sudden death footy now. What's your read on how the Wallabies are staged mentally at this point?
I think they're geared up and ready to go for it, right? As you said, it's the biggest game any of these guys have played in 4 years, and for many of them the biggest games of their careers. And Michael Cheika has gone all in on his selection, and they've got nothing to lose at this point. They've absolutely they're on a 6-match losing streak against England, so they're the firm underdogs.
No one in the wider rugby world is looking at Australia as a genuine contender. I sense that there is a performance left in the Wallabies. They haven't put it together yet. Perhaps that's what that's a downside of the Wallabies. We're waiting for them to click. It's been probably a bit of a narrative throughout the last 4 years, but we saw Perth when it did click. So it was kind of like the evidence is there that it can work. But we also talked yesterday to Genia. Genia's obviously announced that he's retiring, and he's not alone. David Pocock and Sukopi Kepu are also retiring after this World Cup. And listen, those guys don't want to entertain the thought that that's going to end this week, but it's probably worth at least getting in early and saying what incredible careers these guys have had, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if it does go, against the Wallabies this weekend, it will be a really sad day for Australian rugby. They are some of the greats, 2 centurions, and David Pocock, if not for injuries, would probably have been up there as well. And they're kind of the guys who are inspiring the next generation, the Geordie Patayas and all those guys coming through. So, win or lose, this is a massive game for those guys, and, hopefully it adds to their legacy.
Yeah, let's hope they get a victory lap later on, but well done to those three and any others who don't return. Michael Cheika is obviously off contract at the end of the year, and he said that he won't be seeking an extension if they don't win the World Cup. So what can we tell you? It is raining in Oita, but luckily, I don't know whether you can see it, there is a roof over this stadium. There's a little bit of a fog happening at the moment, but yeah, it'll be dry footy tomorrow night, which will help Australia, and they're going to go down running. Michael Cheika said yesterday that the fear inside them is dead. I didn't quite understand what that means. I think they're just going to have a crack as far as the attack goes.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw everything at it and just keep running. There were some interesting stats this week, actually, speaking of running and kicking, that the Wallabies are by far, the lowest kicking side of any Tier 1 nation, and that's what they're going to rely on this weekend, and it can make some really exciting footy, and on a dry deck like this, it will absolutely play into Australia's hands in that aspect of the game.
Okay, so it's a huge weekend of quarterfinal action. New Zealand, Ireland is after Australia and England, and on Sunday, Beth, is South Africa playing Japan, which is going to be an incredible match. The Japanese public are in love with their team. There's 60 million of them watched that Scotland game. You can imagine there's going to be 10 or 20 more million, yeah. And there's only 120 million in the country, so that gives you an idea of just how big it's getting. And the fourth quarterfinal is
Wales and France, the big double-header at Oita on Sunday.
Wales and France, but all eyes on Australia and England, who play here at 6:15 p.m. Australian Daylight Saving Time. Hopefully we'll see you after with more Daily Wrap.